Hello, guys, and welcome to our AWS series. Today, we're going to talk about S3 buckets. But before we start, we have an amazing host who have decided to join us today, GRD Guzman. Would you like to introduce yourself, or I have the pleasure to do that? So it's up to you.
Yeah, you may. Yeah.
I introduce you. Well, if you know, JR is one of the most brilliant people I have ever met. He is brilliant in the cybersecurity and network engineering, and he also worked in that field too. He's the Restart program instructor, and he has his own AWS community to manage, and he's one of the brilliant people from Philippines. So, and he's going to help us with today's lecture also. He's going to help us with the security part and the concepts part. So, hello, Gerard Guzman, and welcome to our channel.
Yes, hello. Yeah. All right.
I think, would you like to share your screen or I share my screen? It's up to you.
Sure, let me share my screen.
Sure.
Right.
Good. You're
My
going to
pleasure
start.
to my pleasure to be here. Yeah. Let me space.
Okay, so guys,
Oops.
a little introduction about S3 buckets. It's one of the most fundamentals services in AWS. فبدك تكمل of course GR I speak a little bit in Arabic, a little bit of English, but you can speak in English, it's fine. So S3 buckets هي من أهم الخدمات عند Amazon, and this service it comes in the exam a lot. Like you can't imagine how much it come on the exam. So we're gonna like give a brief introduction, maybe a little bit of the concepts, key features, like always, best practices, use cases, and then in part two, and security, yeah. And then in part two, we're gonna go a little bit more deep, S3 cores, and a few like solutions architect advanced topics. That's for tomorrow. Are you ready, GR?
Um, I'm preparing my screen if it's possible.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this is on the spot, right? Okay. Share my screen now.
Yes.
Let me know if you can see it.
Yes.
So
Okay, so if we like went through the content of what we're gonna talk about today, we have a few things. Maybe it's gonna be a little bit of a big lecture, let's say.
mm,
So can you like move a little bit so we can see what do we have on our slide today? Yes, so we're gonna give a brief introduction. JR is going to talk a little bit more about the concepts. I'll talk a little bit more about the key features and use cases and best practices. And then JR is going to talk and tell us more about S3 security. So let's go to the introduction. Okay, so introduction to S3 buckets. Of course, S3 is a resemblance for a simple storage service. So that's why it's become S3, like three S's. And it's one of the most fundamental services. We've talked about this. It's also very scalable and it's high available. It's a web-based storage services. You can think of it like iCloud on the iPhone, but it's for Amazon. It's like more Amazon thing. And as we said, this is one of the most important things we're gonna know about. So JR is gonna tell us more about the concepts we need to understand before going in the topic of the S3 bucket. So yeah, let's go to the concepts. Yes.
all right. So So let's talk about the concepts of Amazon S3 or simple storage service, we call. So in this section, um, we're going to talk about the buckets and objects and our naming convention of our S3 bucket and its other properties and data consistency. Hold on. Check. It's okay. Right. So let's talk about the buckets and objects. So when we think about buckets and objects, so um, can I do the um, annotation first? Where's the annotation?
You want the pen? I don't think there's a pen here.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. There's none here. Anyway, yeah, we can continue without it. Right. So when we think about buckets, so this is something like imagine this is your folder in your local machine on your computer. So this is an object storage on an Amazon S3. So there are three kinds of storage um, types of storage. We have block storage, um, file storage, and then the third one is the object storage. So when we think about block storage, this is on a block level, which is Amazon EBS. So it works like an hard drive in your computer. And when we think about file storage, this is shareable to your team. So they can get shareable files to edit with and an object storage like Amazon S3. So this is new to you. So this is fully hosted in the cloud, specifically in AWS. So a bucket here is a container for storing objects. Every object is stored in a bucket. So this is imagine that this is a file, and then an object here is your file. Okay, this is your file, and this is an entity or any kind of file, either image, um, video file, and so on. So there can be um, a lot more objects here, either any type of file you can store but in your Amazon S3 buckets. Now, a key here, so this is a unique identifier for an object within a bucket. So for each object, there's a unique identifier for your object. Meaning on each file that you upload in S3 bucket, if you open up your object, it's different with other objects that you uploaded. Okay. Now the next thing here is hold on, check that. Now let's go to the another section of our concepts. So we have naming and properties. Okay, so take note when we create our bucket, we have to create a unique bucket or Amazon S3 bucket globally. You must create your buckets. It must be unique globally across all AWS. Okay, because a few reasons here is the first thing reason is DNS compliance. Why? So why DNS compliance? So Amazon S3 works with a DNS. I mean unique DNS endpoint. So its URL is distinct and accessible globally. Okay. And when we create our buckets, so that is region specific. Okay. So the data stored in a bucket never leaves the region unless you explicitly configure. So there's a features in Amazon S3 that you can replicate to another region. Okay, that's called replication. So we'll talk about that in the next section. But here, when you create your bucket, you specify in what region. It's either on US West 1, US East 1 on North America, or either in Asia. Okay. Let me give some example. If it's open with you, class. Oh, class. um, right. So to prove that, let me show you in a console. Let me pull up my account first. Give me a minute. I haven't
Yeah,
opened the account. Yeah.
sign in without sharing the screen.
Yeah.
Please, it's gonna go on YouTube.
Right. Let me pull up my account first. Where's the account? Oh, in open in okay. Give that another shot here. Sorry about that. Let me log in first. Okay. So let me ask first while I'm opening my account. So I would like to ask our audience here. So I'd like to know what is your background when it comes to technicalities. May I know it? So we have four audience. Do you know their background Maya?
So, most of the students here are with me in my college, so you can think of it as beginner level. Yeah, you can
Okay, sure.
yeah,
Good.
beginner level.
Yeah, because I was already teaching my um AWS community club, AWS Cloud Club here in the Philippines. So yeah, I like to share with you also. So here you can see now in Amazon S3. So you can search it by services. So you can think of storage, and you can find it here. And if you haven't experience in here in console, you can um, click this star. So you can pin it here. So it's already pinned here. So let's try to create a bucket. Now, I'd like to show you the well, there's a section where I'm talking about security. So will it be okay to proceed that, Maya? Proceeding with the security section, which well I'm creating here. So it's gonna be combination of that section with the concept. All right, so when we create a bucket, so let's try to let me prove it to you that the bucket, it must be unique. Okay.
Yes, it has to be. It has to be unique.
Yeah. So let's sample bucket, something like that, and let's create. Okay. You see that there's an error, meaning there's an existing sample bucket across AWS accounts or globally. So um you have to create a unique, something like combination of characters with a number. So something like this. So um
J.R. de Guzman and Maya.
oh sure. Let me check that. There you go. And a random or a name and a random number. That's fine. That's you can call it a unique, okay? And some other settings here is like object ownership, so ACLs and ACLs enabled. So this is a security features of S3. So as you can see, this is ACLs disabled, which is recommended. So way back, this is for in S3, this is what they implementing before. Now, because there is another policy security features of S3, they recommended not to use this ACL or access control list. So this is a legacy settings or security settings in S3. Okay. So this is on a object level, which is you can restrict whether who can access your bucket or object. So this is a legacy part, which means very old um features. Now here in the block public access, so this is a feature in general when you create your bucket. So this is by default, it's private. So when you unselect this option, you see that you have to confirm it or acknowledge it that this bucket would be in a public access, meaning it is accessible throughout the internet. So anyone who can access your bucket or also your object, of course. Okay. So be careful on setting up this um section or settings to be sure that this is a private. Okay. And another one, or yeah, another features here is bucket versioning. So this is something like you want to create more versions of your object. Okay. And the purpose of versioning is if you want to if you upload a first time of all this, if you upload a object and it has the same name with the first one, there could be a two version. Okay, but it has the same name. So we can do that later on for more exploration, and we can set up a tags. And here's the security, another security features of S3, which is encryption. Okay. Now, an encryption here is so data encryption is like putting your data in a secure box before storing it. Okay. So you have this option of server-side encryption, which means that AWS handles the encryption after your data is uploaded. Now, the first option here is SSE-S3. So there is three types. Okay. The first one is S3. The second one is KMS and dual layer server, or there's a two key. So let's discuss first the SSE-S3. So this is an Amazon or AWS manage its the encryption key for you. Now, AWS uses an an advanced encryption system protocol or AES-256. So that's one of the advanced security or encryption that they are using to encrypt your data. So it's like Amazon giving you a high security for your data. Okay. And also as Amazon hold it key for you. And another one here is KMS. Now, KMS is another service within AWS that manages the encryption within your AWS environment. Okay, so you have the option here to use this and ensure that you selected an KMS key right here, okay, to encrypt your S3 bucket. Okay, and then the third one here is the dual layer server side encryption. So let me pull up my so the dual layer here is, think of this as your um additional layer of security. So by using two sets of keys, so ideal for every sensitive data. Okay. And there's another one. Hold on. Let me check. All right. So SSE-C, but there's no option here. Let me think. Okay.
JR, I don't know if it's from me. I think your voice is interrupting a little bit.
Yeah. There's another one which is a customer manage. So there's no options right here, but you can upload, or yeah, you can upload that key via KMS. You can create your own keys by uploading in a KMS service or key management service. That's what they call customer provided keys. So that's the fourth one. So there are four encryption type in Amazon S3. Okay, so once we are done here, we'll just select this one, a simple S3 bucket, and make sure that all sets are good. So we can enable this later on. Okay. Okay, there you go. Create bucket. Okay. So it is successful. Okay. Oh, I forgot to mention. The buckets is launched in US East 1 in North Virginia. So let's try to create. So previously, the console of Amazon S3, you can see that this there's a section here on this part. You have to select a region. But now AWS modified it. It turns out that you can switch like this one. Select your regions right here. But previously, this is a global. But now AWS takes it similar to other AWS services. Okay, so you can cancel that. So that is what they call the S3 specific region. Okay, so so going back to our discussion. Okay, so that's the naming and properties of Amazon S3. Now let's talk about data consistency. Okay. Now data consistency is we have two types of consistency. We have read after write and eventual consistency. So the first one is read after write. So it means that after you upload or a put operation, something like this one, PUTS, put. So when you after you upload an object to S3, you can immediately read it back. Okay. And then it's like when you have, or when you save a document. When you save a document on your computer and can open it right away when you save it. So this applies also here in Amazon S3. And an eventual consistency here is, this applies to when you update or delete existing object. Meaning after you make some changes, it might take some time to reflect for all of the locations. So basically you upload an object, so there can be a delay, but not much a delay. Okay. So that's what you call the eventual consistency. So it copies all of the data, okay, but not instantly. Okay. All right. So Maya, Your turn. I'll be discussing later on the other part.
Yes. You will be discussing the security part. So if it's possible, can I share my screen, please? Because I need to write. I can't, I need to write. I need to write on Canva. Okay, thank you, JR. Okay, so continuing on JR, of course, let's go to key features. So we've talked about concepts, we've talked about the naming being global, and you have to concentrate on that topic to be specific. So let's go to key features. We have a few key features that we're gonna talk about. So we're gonna talk a little bit about storage classes, data management, security and access controls, data transfer, data processing, and you can guess logging and monitoring. What kind of service do you use? Like, this is very obvious. So monitoring, we've talked about CloudWatch and integration with other AWS services. So let's go to the first one and let's go with storage classes. So we have more than 6. We have, I think, 7. There is one missing I have not incorporated, but it is similar to the things we're going to talk about. So let's go to storage classes. And the one that JR was using was the standard one, which is the general purpose one, and you can use it for any kind of use case that is on demand. It's not cheap, by the way. You're gonna pay on demand pricing, but it is for general purpose and it's for frequently accessed data. So let's write here. Let's say general purpose and frequently accessed. For this one, we're gonna use what is called AWS standard. So S3 standard. Okay, that was caps on, so standard. Okay, so if we went to the second one, which is intelligent tiering, and if you hear of the word intelligent, you're gonna know it's maybe AI, ML. It is, in fact, kind of incorporated with ML and AI. So intelligent tiering helps you to shift between classes to lower the cost. So if we said intelligent tiering, which is IA, shifts between storage classes for cost optimization. Optimizing. I don't know how to write it. Okay, that's fine. So for storage optimization. So standard AI, it's a lower cost, of course, than standard. Let's go to it. So this is for that's less frequent access data but requires rapid access. So you have to access it. So let's understand this thing. Whereas you have a request. So this is our user, as always. So this is our red user, and this is our bucket. It's a huge bucket. Oh, I don't like that bucket. So let me draw it again. Okay, that's much better. So there is a request and retrieve answer. So this is request, so rec with Q, and retrieve, you get the data back. فريكوست انت بتطلب الداتا وريتريف بعطيك الداتا. So في شغلات ممكن يكون عندنا بدنا اياها high retrieve فانه يرجع لنا اياها بسرعه عاليه، او في عندنا شغلات low retrieve راح تكون ارخص، بس of course راح ندفع حق الريتريفل. فهاي الشغلات احنا بدنا نفهمها. في عندنا request وفي عندنا retrieve. هلا كل ما كان الريكوست عالي راح نروح على الاشياء اللي هي هاي الاس 3 ستاندرد، intelligent tiering، standard AI. كل ما قل عنا الريكوست رح نروح على اشياء اسمها جليشير. في عنا S3 جليشير ستاندرد عادي، في عنا فلكسبل ريتريفر، وفي عنا ديب جليشير او ديب اركايف، كلها جليشير. So if we have let's write it down. So if we have high request بنروح على الستاندرد بشكل عام. If we have low request we go to Glacier. Okay. Now الإشي الحلو في الفرق بيناتهم هنا في ال high request you only pay for the objects you put. So أنت بس بتدفع حق الجيجا بايتس اللي أنت بتحطها داخل الباكت مثل الستاندرد. Oops, sorry. Like standard, like one zone, like standard AI. These things you can see here, it's similar to standard AI, but it's in one availability zone فهي أرخص. فحسب your business case and depending on your business case, you're gonna choose the bucket that you need. So standard is for general purpose. Intelligent tiering, it shifts between classes for cost optimization. Standard AI, هون حكينا إنه let's put this up a little bit. So let's have this one. And we have less frequent access. So less frequent access. And general purpose, we're going to use standard AI. And if we put this up again, and the same thing, but the main difference is in one availability zone. So one AZ, we're going to have, I think it's called one zone AI, or yeah, one zone AI. So this one zone AI. So هنا general purpose frequently accessed standard AI shifts between storage classes for cost optimization. ناخد yes و general purpose بس less frequently accessed فعنا بخف الريكوست. نروح على standard AI وإذا بدنا نخزنها ب one availability zone نروح على one zone AI. اوكي. طب glacier شو الفرق؟ طبعا glacier أو glacier حسب ما هم إيش بيحكوا. The difference is we have low retrieval. So yes, here low request and low retrieval. You pay for the retrieval. فهنا بنحكي you pay for the retrieval. So you have what's called the retrieval fees, and you also pay for the data you put. But the difference is you pay much cheaper for the data. So if let's imagine if you pay like 10 cents per object in standard AI, you can pay 1 cent for 1 cent for the object in Glacier, but you're gonna pay retrieval fees. So request and retrieval fees. So this is the two concepts you need to understand. So data management, we have something that's called versioning, and JR gave us like a very brief introduction about versioning. So we took a GitHub class and we've talked about versioning. So let's say we have V1 or bucket 1 and you like added something or updated. It's not gonna create another bucket, it's gonna create another version. So version control. And if something wrong in version 2, it can go back to version 1. So this is versioning. You can keep multiple versions of an object to protect against accidental deletions or overwrites. So you can go back if there's any kind of modification that you don't need anymore, you can go back to older versions. Lifecycle policies, this is more specific to AI, or not AI, IA, intelligent tiering. Intelligent tiering. So life cycles is a little bit more about intelligent tiering. You can specify a few stuff. So if you haven't accessed data in 30 days, let's go to standard IA, which is infrequently accessed. And if it hasn't been 60 days, go to Glacier, so G. And if we haven't been accessing the data for 90 days, go to Deep Glacier or Deep Archive. So this is lifecycle management. And if you look at the Glacier, you can see it is a bucket with a snowflake on it. فهي عبارة عن باكت وعليها ثلجة. فهذا الثلج وديب أركايف ثلجتين. في عنا كتير شغلات لازم نفهمها، إنه الجليشير أرخص من ناحية ستورج، بس رح تدفع إشي اسمه retrieval cost. وفي عنا الجليشير أركايف، فإذا بدك تاخد ترجع معلومة رح تاخد معك up to 12 hours, so half a day. We talked about versioning and lifecycle policies. We're going to talk about replication. We have two kinds of replication. Either it's cross-region replication or same-region replication. So basically, من القراءة cross-region replication is going to replicate it across different regions and same region in the same region. We talked about replication is taking same copy of the same object but putting it in a different place. This is going to help us with high availability based on the business case, or it's going to help us in fault tolerance. فإحنا لما ناخد bucket ونحطه في محل ثاني إحنا بيكون عندنا fault tolerance. فإذا وقع هذا الباكت عندنا هذا الباكت الثاني. Okay. Security and access controls. كمان JR talked a little bit about them. He talked about IAM policies. We also talked about IAM policies. We also did in the IAM session, we talked about bucket policies, ACLs, and as JR said, ACLs are legacy, they're old kind of settings, and we have what's called a server-side encryption. And we're going to talk about server-side encryption in the security part. We have three kinds of encryptions. We have SSE S3, SSE KMS, and SSE C for client. We're going to talk about them in deep detail. And we have block public access. So it's a checkbox that enables you to either allow public access or block public access. فيا بتخلي أي حدا على الإنترنت يفوتوا يا لا. Even if you unchecked the block access part, it's still not gonna enable people from outside to come in your S3 bucket. You still have to put some kind of policies or ACLs that will enable people from outside to come in your S3 bucket. So even if you uncheck the checkbox, it's still gonna not allow everyone to come in. So data transfers, we have three kinds of data transfers. We're gonna, like maybe in other sessions, we're gonna talk about them. So multi-upload, basically multi-upload is we have this that is like 10 gigabytes, so 10 GB. Multiple uploads can give us the ability to break it apart. So here we have like 2 gigs and 2 gigs, and you got my idea. 2 gigs, 2 gigs, and this also. So when you're trying to move this from place A to place B, or A2, it's gonna upload it like this in a parallel way, so it can be much faster. Okay, so this is multi-upload. Transfer acceleration, it also speeds up the transferation between one point to another using CloudFront, and we've talked about CloudFront. S3 Transfer Manager, it's a library for managing S3 bucket transfers. So data processing, we have S3 Select and S3 Object Lambda. So S3 Object Lambda allows us to run code using Lambda. Of course, we know that on S3 buckets. And you can S3 Select, it allows us to retrieve objects using SQL expressions. You still don't know SQL expressions. Select is selecting something from a database, and we're gonna talk about it in our database session. So S3 Object Lambda we've talked about, it's gonna enable you to run code on S3 data. So let's say I want to run this specific code that in Python that can divide data, let's say, on numbers and text. We can do that using S3 Object Lambda. So logging and monitoring, we've talked about this also. So monitoring is CloudWatch using CloudWatch metrics and alarm. And you can capture API calls using CloudTrail. So anything that's related with capturing API calls is CloudTrail, and we're going to talk about it in CloudWatch and CloudTrail session. Server access loggings, you can request request access for your S3 buckets using this feature. Integration with AWS services. This is a lot. So we have like a lot of services we still haven't talked about, and this is in this slide. We haven't talked about Athena, we haven't talked about Redshift Spectrum or EMR or Glue. We only have talked about Lambda. So, also we gave an example in Lambda. So every time something uploads to our S3 bucket, so anything uploads our S3 bucket, it's gonna trigger our Lambda functions to send a message. So send message. This is one of the integrations. Athena is used for querying and data analyzation. Redshift Spectrum is data warehousing. I don't want to really go deep into them because we haven't talked about them. AWS Glue. So AWS Glue, we can turn our S3 bucket into lakes. So we can turn it into a lake or a data lake. And above it, we can insert AWS Glue that can perform ETL, which is transform, load, and E. I forgot what's E. Yeah, extract, transform, and load. So this is the lake, which is S3 bucket. And you put above it a layer of glue and can perform what is known in data analysis as ETL. Extract, transform, and load. EMR, it's kind of the same. It works with big data and stuff like this. We're also not going to talk about it because it's not our topic for today. So use cases. We can use S3 buckets for backup and restoring. So it's obvious we can use it as a data lake. We can use it for archiving in Glacier. So archive, Glacier, data lakes. We've talked about data lakes with Glue. So you can put any kind of data in here, and you can make useful things out of it after analyzing. So anything you can put it, and you can analyze it, use it EMR, Redshift, or Athena. Content distributions. You can host a website on S3 bucket, so literally can do anything on S3 if you want to. Not anything. بتقدر تسوي اللي بدك إياه. بتعمل host للstatic website, تمسك data وتحللها. That's like gonna be available. Also big data analytics. Same. Archival and compliance. Glacier, we've talked about Glacier Deep Archive and Glacier عادية. And application hosting, so yeah, hosting static websites. So best practices. In security, we have to enable versioning to protect from accidental deletions or modifications. So it's going to help us with integrity. Using server-side encryption and KMS for sensitive data. So if you're having sensitive data, you can use SSE S3 or SSE KMS, or the things we're going to talk about also. Apply least privilege principle with IAM policies. So we've talked about least privilege, which is giving permissions for the things you need. Not less, not more. You just give the things you need, and that's it. I forgot the last one, I think, yeah. Regularly review and update bucket policies, of course. So cost, we can use monitoring with Cost Explorer. We can use lifecycle policies to transition between storage classes, and we can analyze access pattern and choose the appropriate storage class. So if you have less retrieval and less requests, let's go to more archival stuff. So we can pay less. So cost optimization. Performance, we can use S3 transfer acceleration for faster uploads, and we've talked about this. It's incorporated with CloudFront. Optimize multi-part uploads for large objects, and we've talked about it right here. That's gonna divide the same object. And use S3 select for retrieving any kind of necessary data. Yes. And S3 selects allows us to do SQL expressions. So SQL select is an SQL language. And the last but not least is durability and availability. There's the thing. So S3 buckets durability. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11, 9, 10, 11. Yeah. So this means in every 10,000 years, you have one atom that is missing in 1 million items. So كل 10,000 سنة بضيع عندك item واحد. This is how huge their durability is. We can enable cross-region replication for disaster recovery, steering for cost optimization, and let's go back to the security session with JR. And it's gonna be our last section for today. Yes. That was very quick, I know.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, let's get back to my other topic here, which I not an expert one, but my specialty. So okay, we're back. Now I'm going to talk about here in this section the S3 security. Okay. The first one is access control. So we're gonna talk about access control in AWS. So it's all about what? Um, it's all about managing who can do or what with your resources inside the AWS or Amazon S3. So it's like having a padlock, right? Padlock or any keys for your digital assets. Okay. Now here in the access control, we have two kinds. First one here is the bucket policy. So bucket policies is written in a JSON format. Okay. So so this define what actions are allowed or denied across the entire bucket. As simple as that. And then the second one here is permissions. Permissions here is you can specify who or we call it say a group, okay? Even entire on AWS accounts who can access your S3 bucket and what they can do with that resources. So whether they can upload a file or modify the file or download them and so on. So you specify on that permission. And the third one here is cross-account access. So meaning, so the bucket policies are especially useful when you need to share the buckets with other users from different AWS accounts. So that's why we call it cross-account access for different AWS accounts. So it's like giving someone outside your organization a special key to your data. Okay. And another one here is IAM policy. So similar here on the second option, we're gonna implement an IAM policies. So the first one is the manage via IAM. Okay. So this is a method which you can use another AWS services which we call identity and access management or IAM. So this centralizes the managing all of the users or entity, whether a group or a user, so who can access your Amazon S3 resources. Okay, so like giving a specific role with that with a certain privilege. Okay, and we have control access to S3 buckets. Okay, so this is policies that controls the S3 buckets and with also the object. Okay, it ensures that only the right people or person who or services can interact with your AWS or Amazon S3 resources. Okay, and the third one is you can specify a granular permissions. You can define a very specific actions with that users or services. So like Maya mentioned earlier, so S3 will or can integrate with other AWS services. So you can define with that policy on which services who can interact with Amazon S3, okay, who can perform, okay, giving you a fine-tuned control over your resources. And then here, so like I said again, access control list is another way for you to um, set up a security policy in your Amazon S3. So it's a legacy method. Okay. So previously this is a recommended, but now, well, we have now the bucket policies and then IAM policies. So sometimes other users they don't use this because they have the bucket policies in IAM for a specific one.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think they're enough.
And yeah, you can grant read and write permissions to AWS. And another one, block public. I already mentioned this earlier, right? So you can override bucket policies and ACLs with this one. And then data encryption. Okay, so this is I already mentioned earlier about SSE S3. This is managed by Amazon S3 for you. So they're using AES 256 protocol, which an encryption mechanism. And KMS, so this is a managed keys for additional control and auditing purposes. And customer provided keys for encryption is you provide your own keys um for, for your encryption. You upload them and that's it. You encrypt your data within S3. And then client side encryption. So this is um the client side encryption is the data is encrypted by the client before you upload in Amazon S3. So it ensures that wherever your data is traveling throughout the internet, your data still encrypted. So client is responsible for managing encryption keys for client-side encryption. All right, so hold on, let me. I am policies. Okay, so I'd like to show you another demo about bucket policies, or where you can find that bucket policy. So going back here in console, so we can click our buckets previously we've created, and under permissions, you can see that there's a bucket policy section here. So you can add on this one for much more granular permissions. Okay, can edit this and right. So if you don't know how to set up a policy, so there's a guide here. So you can see a policy generator. So this is a cool feature creating a bucket policy. So when you click that, okay, you will go through here. So you can specify. So it works with SQS, VPC endpoint policy and IAM policies in SNS, and also S3 bucket policies. Okay, so this our topic is S3, so we can select S3 bucket policies. And step 2 here is you can add a statement, either allow or deny. And the principle here is we can say all of those entity, like we can say we can set up a star. It means of those all of the resources. And AWS services, so automatically populated when you select S3 bucket policies here. Now the most important one here is the actions. So whether you hold on, let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, so this action it tells you what action that entity will gonna do in your AWS or Amazon S3 environment. Okay, something like here, delete bucket. So for example, okay, delete bucket, okay, and right there. So if you want to delete some object, so and if you don't want to, so you can set up a policy here that if someone deletes a bucket, so they're not gonna delete that successfully because you have this policy. So you can set up an effect of deny. Okay, if you have this use case scenario, something like someone is deleting a bucket, they would you will prevent them on doing that. And the Amazon ARN here is or Amazon resource name. So this is a unique ARN within your bucket. So here is the bucket ARN that you can copy, and then you can paste it here. That's it. And you can also add a star again, defining all of your resources. Yeah, it's a unique name, like Maya said here in the chat. Okay. So let's say hold on. Let's look at the another examples here. So let's test set up allow effect, and then let's unselect these features, and let's say get object. Get object. There you go. So meaning you will you allow someone who can get to that bucket, or the object itself inside the bucket. So meaning you allow anyone who can get meaning who can get those or retrieving or downloading your resources. So you can set up you can set up like this one, and then you can generate or add statement, and something like this one, and generate policies. So here you created your own policies right here. Okay, and right after you generated, you can copy this one and paste it right here. Simple as that. Okay. Well, if you have a certain policies given to you, we can you can generate here, okay, based from your requirements. After that, you can save the changes. Okay. Why? The backup policy change can't be saved.
You have
Yes.
wait, you have
Remember that I have to unselect first the bucket itself, meaning I have to change this block public access first before I can edit that part. So let's give it a shot. Just a purpose of the demo. Okay, and okay, let's try again. There you go. It's successful. Save. Yeah, It saves the policy. Yep. You must modify the block all public policy. So meaning, what I did here is your bucket is already in the public access. As you can see, block all public is also off, meaning you allow everyone to access your bucket. Also, your object is affected as well, but only on a get object, meaning they can retrieve or download it. Okay, that's one of the examples you can do here, but in the bucket policies. Okay. And also IAM policies here is, do we still have time?
Yeah, I think like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Can show
Can
on the
we?
policy generator, I think you can do that. You have IAM policies.
Yep. We can do that as well here in bucket policies, but also you can specify in IAM service who can access your buckets. You specify their permissions. We can also add it here on the public policy generators. You can see we have IAM policies here. We have to delete first. Okay, there you go. Okay. You can do it as well in the policy generator. Or if you don't know, there's an existing IAM permissions when we go to the IAM service. Okay. And under, hold on. Under policies here, so these are all of the manage and custom or customer managed type of policies. Okay. So this is already predefined by AWS themselves. You can see this is written in JSON as well. All of those policies are written in JSON actually. So that's it. Can cancel this one out and I'll just modify that later on. Okay, so data encryption again. Your turn, Maya. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we have finished for today.
Yeah.
If I'm not wrong. So it's the end of part 1, guys. There's part 2, but in the 21st of August. So I messed up the recording. And I would like to give a special